Hey everyone, in this video we're going to take a look at Latin verbs again, but now we're going to look at a different tense. So in past videos we've talked about what is a tense, what does it mean, what are the different tenses in Latin, and we've talked about how to do the present tense in a previous video, but now we're going to talk about the imperfect tense, right? So this is a tense that has to deal with the past, and we're going to unpack what it means, how it's used, and how do we form it in Latin, right? How do we spell Latin verbs that are in the imperfect tense? So to start, though, we want to think of a question that I've asked a bunch of times in these videos. What is a verb, right? You need to make sure you've got that under control. And again, a verb is just an action word, right? It's very simple. Words like to type, to launch, to run, skip, jump, anything involving an action is a verb, right? So now that we have this concept of what a verb is, we have to understand how it's used in Latin, right? So Latin verbs have three elements to them. They have tense, mood, and voice. Now, in this video, we're going to be sticking with tense, okay? We'll deal with mood and voice another time. But we're going to be talking about the timing, okay? So you want to remember in a previous video, I talked about what is a tense, and I told you that a tense is timing, right? It comes from the Latin word tempus, which means time. So we're not changing an action, right? We're still running, skipping, jumping. We're changing the timing of that action, right? What if I ran in the past, right? What if I jumped in the past? How do I say that? Okay, so I'd encourage you, if you want to get an overview of what a tense is, go back, click this video that I have here, or feel free to go back and watch it. It'll give you an idea of just in general what a tense is, and it'll also talk about the imperfect tense, explaining what it is and kind of how it works in English. But what we want to do in this video is understand, where do we start, right? Where do we start in Latin? How do we conjugate these verbs, right? So a little bit different. We do want to understand the English, but we really want to get at what do they look like in Latin. So to start, what we want to think about are actions in the past, okay? So here's kind of a basic question. How did you get to school this morning, right? If you walk to school, there's two ways to think about it, okay? Now, these are both actions in the past, but take a look at the English below. We have I walked and I was walking, okay? They're both in the past, but they're conveying slightly different information. You're telling us something a little bit different about the timing of when you were walking, okay? So if you say, I walked to school, it usually means you're trying to show that the action is done, over with, completed. Yep, I walked to school. Got it. But if you were to say, I was walking, now you're showing yourself walking over a period of time. You'd use this if you were going to put another action into your story. Maybe you're going to say, yeah, I was walking to school today and a bird flew onto my head, something like that. Right? When you say I was walking, now I'm visualizing a video, right? Not a snapshot, right? A picture, I walked, but more of a video. I can kind of see you walking along on your way to school, and you're probably going to tell me that something else happened. This is a key difference about actions in the past. There's really two ways of describing them. You can either do the snapshot version, right? The picture, I walked, or you can do the video version, I was walking. The imperfect tense is really like the video. I was walking to school today. Right? When you say that, you're talking about actions in the past, right, that aren't completed yet. They're continuous or repeated. Okay, this is actually where we get the word imperfect from. Imperfectus means not completed. Okay, and you're going to see there's another tense that we'll do in a different video called the perfect tense. Perfectus means completed, right? So we have completed actions, right? Boom, I walked to school. And incomplete actions, right? I was walking. It's showing sort of the past over a period of time. It's that continuous action. In English, we translate the imperfect as was or were. I was walking, we were walking. But there's other ways to do it. If you want to show the repeated action, you could say, oh, I used to go to camp in the summer. When you say that, it means that you repeated that. You went to camp a couple summers in a row is kind of what you're getting at. Or you could even use kept, right? So maybe you're talking about a sibling and you say, you know, I have two older brothers. So I'll give you an example from me. I might say something like, my brothers kept hitting me, right? Something they did a lot. If you say kept hitting me, you can almost visualize them with like a bat or a fist or something hitting me over and over again, right? It's the repeated or continuous action. That's what the imperfect tense is. And it gets a little bit of getting used to, right? It takes some time to really understand what it is. But again, think about the video versus the snapshot. That's really what we're after. We're talking about the video here, okay? So how do we actually do this in Latin? Okay, how do we form the imperfect tense? Well, here you're looking at a Latin verb, the verb to hear, audio audire, okay? And we've said in a bunch of videos that when you have Latin verbs, they have four pieces, right? We call these principal parts, right? So for instance, for the verb to hear, you have audio, audire, audivi, auditus, right? You have the first part, which is first person singular present tense. You have the infinitive, then the first person singular perfect tense, and then you have the fourth part, which is the participial form, usually a perfect passive participle. Okay, and we always have the English too. So which pieces do we need for imperfect tense? right? So when you're dealing with imperfect, you actually only need the infinitive. So the other three pieces we don't need here. Okay, so we don't need audio, audivi, or auditus. It's not necessary. Okay, so this is a slight difference. With present tense, we needed that first part because that actually is present tense, right? First person singular, I here. We don't need it for the imperfect. Okay, so what we're really after is just this piece, audire, to hear. Okay, that's really all we need. And you might include the first piece to audio just so you can tell what conjugation the verb is, but it's really not necessary for imperfect tense. Okay, we're really specifically focusing on audire, right? That present active infinitive. So what do? Well, here's the plan. Step one, just like with present tense, you go to the infinitive and you drop the RE. First, by the way, you probably want to make sure you know what your conjugation is, right? And we'll talk about that a little later in the video. But you start with the infinitive, right? Audire, and you drop the RE. Okay, here's some examples. If we had ambulare, my stem is ambula. Audire becomes audi, and sedere becomes sede, right? This is what we call the present stem. So we start with that, just like we did with present tense, okay? Step two, though, is we have to add what's called an infix. So you've probably heard of the words prefix, suffix, right? A prefix is something that goes before something, right before your name. For instance, a suffix would come after. An infix is literally something you put, right, or place in the middle of a word, right? That's what it means. So when I have audire, I drop the RE, and now I have audi, that's my stem. Instead of adding my endings, I'm going to stick something in between and then add my endings. What I put there is ba. This is the imperfect tense infix, right? Ba is the giveaway that you're dealing with imperfect tense. So if I had audire, I would put audi and then put the ba. It becomes audie ba, and I'll explain why the e is there in a second. But just understand that you're sticking a ba onto the stem. Then step three, we add our endings. But instead of OST, the imperfect tense will use an alternate M, which we'll actually see a lot in different tenses. So it's MST, must, tis, son. But again, it means the same thing. I, you, he, she, it, we, you, all, they. Okay? So it's pretty easy, right? Nothing too complicated here. Go to the infinitive, drop the RE, add a BA, add your endings. Pretty easy. Well, it's a little more complicated, right? There's a couple things you need to think about. It's not as complicated as present tense, which had vowel flips and things like that. But there are some things you need to be aware of. So first, I mentioned this a minute ago, you need to know what conjugation your verb is. So you have to look at the infinitive, look at how it's spelled, and figure out what vowel is right in front of the RE. That's giving away what group or conjugation it is. So long ARE is first, long ERE is second, short ERE is third, and that long IRE is fourth. Okay, so you just want to make sure that you have that squared away. Here's where it becomes important. For first, second, and third conjugation verbs, I know in present tense, third conjugation was a little bit of a wild card. In imperfect, it's actually very straightforward. So first, second, or third, right? Not third IO, just first, second, or third. There's no vowel changes. All you do is you stick a BA onto your present stem and add your endings. So if I had ambulare, first conjugation verb, my stem would be ambula, I add a ba, and then I add my endings. It becomes ambula, bam, ba, spot, bam, spot to spot. And you want to notice the long mark in the ba, it shows up in second person singular and then first and second person plural, right? That's kind of the general idea. Okay, so just pay attention where that macron is, all right? For third IO and fourth, okay, so the other two, you have to do a little tweaking, okay? The easiest way to think about it is just make sure that there's an IE in front of your BA. Okay, if you want to be more complicated, if I took yakio, yakare, a third IO verb, my infinitive is yakare. If I drop the RE, I have yake. I'm adding an I in front of it, right? For fourth conjugation, the I would already be there, and I'm adding an E. So to simplify it, instead of getting complicated with a couple different steps, I like to simplify it. When you have a third IO or fourth conjugation verb, just make sure there's an IE in front of your BA. You might be adding an I, you might be adding an E, whatever you got to do, just make sure there is an IE on the end of that present step. So yakare becomes yakie, right? I stuck the I in there. Now I add on bam, ba, spot, bam, spot to spot. So I get yakie bam, yakie bas, yakie bot, bam, spot to spot, right? So I've taken my my stem and I just made sure there was an IE in front of it. That works for third IO and fourth. And I'll show you some examples as we go through this video. Okay. So now that we've seen how it works, let's unpack the meaning, right? Why are we doing this? Well, if you think about the verb in the imperfect tense, so ambula bam, for instance, right? I was walking. how do we really unpack this? Well, the ambula part has to do with walking, right? That's the part that's telling you someone's walking. So if you were a native Latin speaker, I like to imagine, Joe and Josephine Roman walking around, they're having a good time. Someone says ambulabam, right? You'd probably be trained to hear ambula and say, okay, someone's walking. The ba is saying was. It happened in the past. It's a continuous action, right? So the ba means was. The M on the end is telling you who was walking, right? I. So you're literally hearing it as walking was I, and then you process it. You're like, got it, ambulabam, I was walking. It makes sense. So that's really what you're doing here. By sticking the ba in, you're just making it either was or were, and the ending, just like always, right? In Latin verbs, the ending tells you who's doing the action. Right? So ambulabam, literally walking was I. It means I was walking. That's how we get there. Okay? So hopefully this makes sense, right? Nothing too crazy. The idea is pretty straightforward. It just takes some practice. So now we're going to do some examples and just make sure that we feel really comfortable with this so that you can move on and feel like you've got the gist of it. Okay? So here's the first conjugation verb, ambulo, ambulare. I take ambulare, the infinitive, drop the re. I have a stem of ambula. That's what you're seeing in yellow. Then I add in my ba and my endings. I get ambula, bam, ba, spot, bam, spot to spot, right? I was walking, you were walking, he, she, it was walking, and down the line. Here's a second conjugation verb, sedere, right? The long ere in sedere, the infinitive, gives it away. Second conjugation. Same thing. Go to the infinitive, drop the re. I have sede. Then I add on bam, ba, spot, bam, spot to spot, right? Sede, bam, sede, ba, sede, ba. I was sitting, you were sitting, he, she, it was sitting. Very straightforward. Here we have a third conjugation verb. And again, in imperfect tense, third conjugation is not scary, so don't freak out. There's nothing crazy happening here. I went to the infinitive. I dropped the re. That gives me my stem of ascende, right? And notice how it's a long e there. Ascende, then I added bam, ba, spot, bam, spot to spot, right? So ascende, bam. I was climbing. Ascende, ba. So you were climbing. Ascende, ba. He, she, it was climbing. And down the line. Here we have a third io. This is the only time it gets a little sketchy, right? You have aripio, aripere. So aripere, third conjugation, short ere. And because there's an io in that first piece, aripio, it's a third io verb. Okay, so all I did was I took the infinitive, aripere, I dropped the re, that would give me a stem of arripe, but then I had to add the I into it, because remember, with third io and fourth, make sure there's an IE in front of your BA. So it's not aripe bomb, it's aripie bomb, IE, then bomb, ba, spot. Bomb is spot to spot. Again, aripie bomb, aripie bas, aripie ba. I was seizing, you were seizing, he, she, it was seizing, and down the line. Here we have a fourth conjugation verb. Skio, skire means to know. Same thing. If I take the infinitive and drop the re, I have a stem of ski, SCI. But I have to make sure there's an IE in front of my BA. Since there's already an I here, I'm adding an E. Okay, so my stem becomes skie, SCIE. And then I add on bam, ba, spot to spot, right? Skie, bam, skie, ba, skie, ba. I was knowing, you were knowing, he, she, it was knowing. Right? So it's pretty straightforward, and hopefully these examples help. But it's not overly complicated. You just have to practice it. That's really the key. And I posted here, if you can pause the video, feel free and zoom in. Or if you ever needed it, let me know. I can send you this infographic. But this is one I use with my students, just walking you through the steps of what you do, right, on how to conjugate imperfect tense verbs. It kind of puts it into one compact chart for you. And the fourth box down, the second from the bottom, gives you examples. So feel free to pause the video here and take a look. Hopefully this helps. If not, the examples we just did are all you should really need. Here's a bonus pro tip, and these are not mine, but I'm going to plug them anyway, okay? If you go into the deeper parts of the internet, you'll find a legend in Latin, Hypause, okay? That's the video on the left. Hypause is, I believe, a Latin teacher who cranks out amazing Latin videos. They are weird, beyond weird, love them to death. But they do help you get the repetition. So the video he made is on present, imperfect, and future. So you have to kind of parse out where the imperfect is, but he's going to sing you a song, ridiculous dancing, love the outfits. The guy's an absolute legend. Feel free to watch this video, right? Another one, which will haunt your dreams and creep you out for the rest of your life, is the video to the right. I actually don't know who made it. I think it was part of maybe like a National Junior Classical League video, something like that. I think it's student made. It is one of the creepiest videos you'll ever see in your life. The creepy horse, unicorn, bombas, bot song, but it's catchy, right? It'll stick in your mind forever. Again, it will haunt your dreams. Just a pro tip, if you can find a song, your brain is wired for music. Anytime you can get a song or a rhythm or a beat, anything to help you remember how to do this, you always should. These are two I'd recommend that I use in class. They're both amazing in their own way. The one on the right is definitely creepy, but still, go for it. Have some fun. So here's a quick recap of everything we just talked about, right? The imperfect tense. We said the imperfect tense represents continuous or repeated past action. To form it, you go to the infinitive, you drop the RE, then you add your infix of ba. That's what makes it imperfect, the ba. And then you add your personal verb endings, MST, must, to, some, okay? When you have a third I or fourth conjugation verb, you just have to make sure that there's an IE in front of the BA. That's the only trick. Okay, apart from that, just think of your translation. Imperfect tense, we translate as was or were, or you could say used to or kept. There's a couple different ways to do it. The most common one, easiest one to remember is just was or were. Okay, if you follow these steps, you should be fine. Imperfect tense in general is not the hardest one to conjugate or to use, but still, you want to make sure you feel comfortable with it, right? It might be the second tense you've ever seen in Latin. Maybe you're not entirely sure or feeling confident in your own Latin abilities. You're going to be fine. Watch this video. Hopefully it helps. Just follow the steps and you'll be good every time. Good luck.